What do I have in my hair?
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and listening and watching and learning today. We have Amy Tiemann today, and I'm really excited to have her on again. This time we're going to be focusing on another area of expertise because she's been in the industry for so long that she has multiple different things that she can share and teach us. Today we're focusing on the BRRR, R for our forever strategy, the BRRR strategy. Yeah. So Amy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Okay, so I'm Amy Tiemann. I am a multifamily investor, sponsor, syndicator extraordinaire. Been doing this investing since 2010. I've been a real estate investor since 2008. Prior to that, I was a general contractor, so I renovated a ton of crap, even multifamily, but I was also a commercial retail contractor. I built stores in about 16 states. So I kind of built all sorts of stuff. And then every contractor gets into real estate investing because they're like, well, shit, I can do this for me. So that's kind of how we got into it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Amy, thank you so much for being on here today. So we're covering the BRRRR strategy. What does that stand for? And then how did you start? Where did you start doing it?
Well, I bought our first single family home for $33,000. And it was a piece of junk. And I bought it for $33,000 because I was so mad at the family. They let this mother live in this house that was basically like horrible. Like I couldn't believe they let their mother live there, right? So it was an estate sale. So the first B is buy, right? So you're going to buy something. And you want to, and everybody understands in real estate, you don't make money when you sell. You make money when you buy. So you got to make sure that you're buying right. So this one, they pissed me off that they let their mother live in these conditions. So I offered them $32,000, like take it or leave it, you assholes. Basically is what I was like. I was so pissed. And so we got this house, and in true general contractor form, we spent way too much money on it. And we over renovated it, and we did all sorts of great things. So yeah, that's the next R. The next R is basically you're going to buy and you're going to rehab, right? And so you just so you got to know going in. So a lot of stuff when you learn. So what, like when I bought my first single family, I learned that the hard way. You've really got to know your market comps. And you got to know what sells in that area to know what to rehab to. So you can determine what your rehab budget's going to be going in, right? So you that's the part of the whole deal. So you have your realtor go through and go, hey, show me stuff that's for sale and let me look at the finishes so I can see kind of what product I should be offering when I turn around and sell this thing. What product I should be offering to do some of that kind of stuff. This one we were going to keep as a rental, but we ended up having to sell it because we couldn't rent it either. It was too nice to rent, like in the neighborhood where we totally did a Chip and Joanna oops, like totally like just like renovated this thing like crazy. Got granite countertops. This is in a C-class neighborhood. I mean, we just totally stupid, right? And part of it wasn't so much that it was like the material cost or anything. We had great suppliers, so we had all these awesome relationships where we could go get all this crap, and we got it really, really cheap. So we were like, oh well, hey, laminate or granite is about the same price, so let's just throw granite in there. Oh, totally screwed ourselves. This is the dumbest thing we ever did. So you're gonna buy and you're gonna rehab it, right? And typically, you've got to be so. When you get to that part, so then you're like, okay, I'm going to rent this thing because long-term holds are like how you make your money in real estate. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to flip and I'm flip. No, you just gave yourself a job. When you become a house flipper, all you do is give yourself a job. When you actually hold on to real estate, then you're getting mailbox money and you're starting to get passive income and you're starting to do all of those kinds of things. And so when you do some of that kind of stuff and you're managing through tenants and you're doing all of that, that's fine. And so, but what it does is, what a lot of people don't realize is it starts creating your net worth, right? It starts adding values to your net worth because especially when you buy right in real estate, say you go in and you buy a house for $33,000 like I did, that sucker was worth $70,000 when I bought it. So I just gave myself $37,000 of net worth by buying something cheap, right? So a lot of people don't realize that. And so if in the game in real estate is you got to build up your net worth, right? So as you go through and scale and do all this stuff, the two things you need is net worth and liquidity. I mean, you got to have those two things all the time and able to do anything in real estate. So if you're able to go buy single family houses and build up your net worth and, pocket some cash and stow it away and do all those good things, then you're setting yourself up to go kind of do multifamily, which is what I do now. And that's what we did. I mean, we invested as an LP in some multifamily deals, but we were always doing single family so that when the time came, so as we got through some of this stuff, like in 2015, we sold 4 single family homes and used that because we had so much equity in those. We used that as a down payment. We 1031 exchanged it and used it as a down payment on a 40 unit that we bought on our own. Because we were able to, because we had the net worth, we had the liquidity to kind of go do some of that kind of stuff, right? But otherwise, we weren't going to be able to, you weren't able to do it. So we ran through, we flipped some and we rented some. So we had about maybe 7 or 8 rentals. We didn't get far down in the single family market. It's not like we had 100, right? Or 40, or some people who go, that's all they kind of do. Because we knew eventually we wanted to get into multifamily. And so that's kind of so you buy, you rehab, you rent it. Some people do the 4th R is you refi and you pull your money out and you go buy other stuff as you hold it. You could do that. And then you could R it again. You could refi again if you appreciate the little money, it could be a little long BRRR. And then eventually you have to sell because at some point your return on equity is so small that it doesn't make sense to hold it. But you have to make all of those guesses kind of on your own as you kind of figure out what you're going to do. But so that's, you just do that over and over and over. As I was a GC, so it was easy for me. On the rehab side was easy. We already and I still had the construction company at the time, so I had all the suppliers, I had all the, the vendors, the subs, I had all that stuff. So that part was easy. But I had a lot of friends that were doing some of that too, and they didn't have any of that. They just had people they knew, and they kind of just learned to manage through some of that kind of stuff. And that can be intimidating for some people, right? Running a construction crew is intimidating, not just for a girl, but for a guy too. If you've never run a construction crew, yeah, it's fun. They're like, my friends would try to kick us off of jobs, oh, we could GC this. You guys make this look so easy. And then they would go do it. And then I would be sitting there and they're like, Amy, please come take this over. Because it's a skill. It's like, you got to know what you're doing, and it's a skill. And, running ahead of everybody and trying to mitigate every risk that could happen and trying to cut stuff off at the pass is truly a skill that GCs have. And after a while, you've been doing it for so long, you just kind of know what to do. And think that's why we make it look easy, because we've been doing it forever. But yeah. So that's kind of stuff. So that's on the single family side. Yeah.
So on your single family side, whenever you were doing the BRRR for the single family, did you say that you became a contractor during that phase because you're like, well, I got to learn it anyway? Or was it you are already doing that at the time or before?
Yeah, I was already a contractor before. So we had been a contractor since 2004. And then we didn't really start till 4 years later. We didn't start really real estate investing till 2008. So yeah, we had just been building stores and stuff like that, and then decided to get into real estate investing. And and I grew up. My dad was a contractor. He owned a glass company, so I grew up riding around in a truck. So it was just kind of secondhand to me. So it was no big deal. So when we started a construction company, I'm like, all right, that's fine. I know how to do that. No big, no big whoop. So we had done a lot of that. So, but I had a lot of friends who had never managed a crew that learned how to do it too. So I don't want to say that you have to have that experience to become a flipper. You don't. If you're a project manager or you have some sort of entrepreneurial spirit in you, you can figure it out. You can learn to manage through crews, and it'll be probably a lot harder for you than it was for me, because I learned on the fly on other projects that people are paying me to do versus my own stuff. But yeah, you can learn it. It's not too tough.
Well, the reason
you just got to have really good vendors. They're really helpful. Yeah.
Well, there lies the challenge.
Yeah, I know, right?
That was I had to have somebody like
Yeah.
you come in when I was in single family to boss people around, to be the big boss bee, because like basically I knew enough
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to do the math. I knew enough to be able to know how many things to order, when it needed to be
Yep.
done, and tell people what to do. But however, as far as knowing, oh, if I do a cost plus, or if I do, they just knew kind of what their angle was before I even
Oh yeah.
thought they were going to do that. And there's so
Oh
many.
yeah.
So yeah, someone with experience, at least, whether it's, on your first one, you're splitting the profits with them, or like for me, I had kind of like a big brother that was also flipping like across the street. So I'd be like, Jason, come help me like hang my microwave. The guys won't do it, or whatever, just little things like that.
Yeah.
Because they were just
Oh
like,
yeah.
you won't pay us. I'm like, guys, the plumbing doesn't work, anyway. So having someone that you can
Yeah.
at least reference, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, it is helpful. You have to have somebody mentor you through it because there's so much to it, right? And so knowing how to structure the construction contract, how do you do a change order? How do you manage through payment? How do you if you want to withhold payment, can you withhold payment? Hell yes, you can. Like if they'll all the games they play, right? So if it's progress payments, they'll say, oh, we're 40% done. And you go, well, I ain't paying you until I inspect it, buddy. So let me go over there, and you look at it and go, oh, you're not 40% done. What the are you talking about? But because every contractor has cash flow issues, you could just know they have cash flow issues going in, unless they're really, really big. Like a small people doing single family, they all have cash flow issues. So if you can float it, then you've got to understand that you are very valuable to them, and they should give you discounts for that. So don't let them charge you top dollar if you're going to pay them in 7 days. That's unheard of, right? And so if you can go, hey, I'll be able to give you 20% up front, but that 20% is really for materials, and I'm buying those materials anyway. So when you show up, the materials will be there. So I ain't giving you 20% up front. And then not only that, then I'll pay you in 7 days as soon as you're done. Like on Friday, when everybody wants to pay, all you do is want to get paid, I will pay you that day, but I expect you to knock your price down 25%. And they'll go, okay. But if you don't know that, then you're just like, huh, okay. So yeah.
Like, I mean, I learned so much, but so there's pros and cons, of course, to BRRRing single family and multifamily. I'm sure both.
Yep.
One thing all
Yep.
were in single family was that when it came to the little guys, they don't care as much about the reputation. So, in the multifamily industry, there's less principals or people doing the deal as the person getting the loan, the person flipping it, and there's more units and there's less apartments available. I don't know how to quantify this or say this, but basically there's not a place they can really hide. The word kind of gets around, I guess, if you will. So, the guys in single or multifamily seem to care a little bit more, if they're the ones that are constantly like telling me, give me money on Friday, and they have to whatever. I don't experience that in multifamily
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, every once in a while,
Yeah.
you get some huge job.
Every once in a while you will.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
excuse me, but they'll usually wrap it up because they care. So that would, I would say, be like a con of doing a BRRRR method in the single family space.
Yeah.
What are there any other cons that you can think of doing a BRRRR in single family? I can think of one. The refi. The refi.
Yes, the refi.
DTI. Yeah.
The financing, all of it, right? So when you're financing anything in single family versus multifamily, right? Unless you're using a hard money guy, which you probably will in single family, you're going to hard money and then finance out. You got to be able to finance out. Like if for some reason you don't have a great W-2 or you don't have this, that, and the other, and you can't finance out, you're stuck in that hard money loan unless you sell the sucker, and then you become a flipper, and you're not really doing a BRRRR, right? So yeah.
Now, what would you say are the pluses or the pros to doing a BRRRR in a single family?
Well, usually if you're able to do something like that, you're going to make a good chunk of cash. It's a good way for people who start out. That's kind of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're a first time investor, this is a great way to do it because you can buy cheap crap and you can fix it the whole thing about the equity and building up your equity. That's the way to do it. It's much more doing it that way versus flipping. Like if you can find something and hold it and rent it and hold it, you're going to do much, you'll get farther along as a real estate investor than if you're flipping homes to like generate cash. So,
If
yeah.
you were a single family BRRR person, how many do you think someone could do per year to help that net worth and liquidity go up?
Oh, it depends on how fast you want to grow, but I would shoot 5 to 10.
Yeah.
I mean, really, once you get one under your belt, doing the next 3, you can do them all simultaneously. Like you just get that first one done and get through that process, then do 2 at a time, 3 at a time. You can get through it. That's the other thing. That's a con. The house has got to be there. The deals have to be there. If the deals aren't there, you're screwed, dude. You're sitting there and like, I wish I could buy a house. Nothing's, like you're in Austin and there's nothing available because it's all like $500,000 and you can't buy anything. So yeah, that's the other thing too with single family is like there are great times to be in single family and there's great times not to be in single family because you just can't find anything, or it depends on the market you're into. So yeah.
What would you say as far as being in single family, a good time to be looking for deals, and then what would be a good time to then go maybe join a group that can source large commercial deals instead?
So the great time to be in single family is during a recession when there's lots of foreclosures. Because, foreclosures are awesome because, you're going to get a good deal. And so I would anticipate, I don't know, everybody doesn't know what's going to happen in 2021. Fannie Mae says that the economy is going to grow by like 5%, right? I just read that today. I'm like, and the other people say the vacuum's going to come out and we're going to tank. So I don't think anybody knows. I mean, we're overdue for like a real recession. So when you're in a recession, like, and you start to see like in good solid markets, right? Like Austin, Texas, or Houston, Texas, or Dallas, and the prices start coming down, that's where you want to like wait for it to come down and start buying there because it's inherently going to go back. Like, good solid market, Nashville, like Atlanta, like they're just solid economies, and I like Republican governors because I think they're better, it's just me. But it's one of those things. Like, don't buy in California; they're crazy. But yeah, that's just me. So.
Well, I mean, there's some level of truth to that. Landlord friendly,
Yeah.
not tenant friendly, business friendly, tax friendly states usually are some sort of a conservative state. So we have that. Where we are, in Texas, and I am starting to see. This is on I don't know if today's like the 17th or whatever it is of January right now. 2021, but I have seen a couple of pre-foreclosures from Arbor Mortgage, and that is multifamily and a little bit of single family because obviously I'm looking for multi. So that's stuff that I think is over leveraged, and so obviously they offer cash flow. So I do have some opportunities coming. So I guess in a down market, single family seems to be more emotional and it seems to react quicker. I think that people in multifamily have more cash and they have more reserves and they have things that kind of last longer. I think not everybody, but so I think that what happens is the single family market when there's a recession, those would probably go down first, and then I think maybe a ricochet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of things that happen in multifamily are also dependent on not cycles necessarily, but they're dependent on, their financing. Like when their IO period ends, if they can't refinance it and crap happens and the property's not performing well, they're going to sell. So you get with these weird pockets of it doesn't depend on market cycles at all, right? Or, people might just want to take profits and run. Like there's a temperament, like every 3 to 5 years, people are itching to sell, like, and they want to go, they take their gains and go buy other stuff. And so that's why a lot of multifamily or any commercial real estate, I don't know, I think office kind of tends to hang a lot longer. There's people a little more, like to do some of it, but multifamily, they have to sell every 5 years, which is fine. No big deal. But so you'll see more stuff come available now, like, there's certain markets like Austin and Dallas where they think their crap doesn't stink and it's like worth $1 billion when it's not really worth $1 billion. And so you got to, find a market where it's a little more reasonable. But so the people will choose to sell during those times because they want to take gains. So when you see some of that kind of stuff, it's not the opportune time to buy. But it's great to own something during those times and you can sell because, there's always like some sort of institutional investor that will buy it just because they got to stick their money somewhere.
Mm.
right? So that's, that's the other thing about being in multifamily is really cool. It's like you have a larger, I mean, you think you got a good pool of buyers in single family, you got a huge pool of buyers in multifamily because there's all sorts of people getting in this game and with tons of cash. They want to go buy stuff. So it's kind of fun. Kind of fun. So yeah.
Would you say
Yeah.
going from single family to multifamily, doing a BRRR? Can you give us a story of your first BRRR in multifamily?
Sure. So it was I was an LP, but we were also the GC on the deal. And and we bought it in this LP group. There's only about, I don't know, 10 of us. So it always kind of felt like we were all the GPs, but we really weren't. But we bought it all cash because we bought it in 2010 and we couldn't get a loan on it. So we all pitched in to go buy this thing at 37. It was 40 doors and it was $37,000 a unit in Austin in 2010. Yes, we made a killing on that sucker. Oh my God, it was so good. And so it was 40 units. We came in, we were the GC. We renovated everything. I mean, the exteriors, all the interiors. The pool was boarded over and it looked like there was a dead body in it. I mean, we're talking, it was gross. Yeah, it was, yeah. And we were like, when we're like lifting up the boards going, please don't let there be a dead body in here. Please don't. No, but there were shoes. There were shoes and there was no dead body. But yeah, it was just gross. I mean, and the people that live there, so it's a reposition play. Like, so it's all the stuff that for some reason just finds me and gravitates to me. I get all these reposition plays. Basically, you go buy it really, really cheap. You renovate everything. You make sure it's in your capital budget and renovate everything. You have to, not only that, you have to turn, it's larger because you have to turn your whole tenant base. Because whoever decided to live in that piece of junk is not who you really want to rent to anyway. You want to change your tenant base. You have to learn how to navigate through all of that. And then you change basically by increasing your income, changing the exteriors, updating it, you can change what they call classes in multifamily, right? So there's A, B, C, and D and growth. So, well, C and D are kind of gross to begin with, but there's worse than D. But so you just change, when you change the class, so what happens is in multifamily is that's why in multifamily makes so much money, is because by building value, you can build like the little bitty changes can astronomically change the value of the asset, right? So if you changed your income by just a little bit, so like so for instance, on this one I'm buying in Houston, there's 2 units. Okay, this is an perfect example. There's 2 units that are 2 bedrooms that they're using as offices. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my damn life. So you turn those offices back into units. It's going to cost you, because they turned them in offices, it's like $5,000 a unit, right? So you spend $10,000 to turn those back into units, and based on the income that you can get, you increase the value of that property by $400,000. By just changing those 2 units offices back into units. It's just silly, but when people don't understand how to have value, how multifamily properties are valued, that is a perfect example. So that's how you scale, that's how you change, that's how you grow, and you can't do that in single family. You can't do that in single family, and there's a ton of ways in multifamily that you can build value like that. Like you can, and inexpensive ways, like build a fenced yard and you can increase the income by like $50 or $75 a month and the fence is going to cost you $20. I mean, it's not going to cost you much to give them a little fenced yard, right? Anything to increase value, parking lots, signage, all sorts of things you can monetize on a commercial property that you can't do at a single family home, right? So that's kind of and the other thing too is when you're in a single family home and you don't have a tenant, guess who's paying all the friggin' bills? And when you're in a multifamily home, you can survive off of like 2 or 3 people not being there, or depending on how large it is, maybe 40 people not being there, right? The thing's going to make money. So that's kind of the biggest thing too. So, and then the whole financing game with multifamily, it just changes a lot of different things. And most people, you buy a multifamily property, you go renovate it, you build so much value in it that when you refi out, you're basically able to pay all your investors back all of their money, right? And they still own it. And they're still getting distributions. And then you do all of that. And then in 5 years, you sell it and they get more money. Like, that's kind of the BRRRR game in multifamily. And that's what we normally did, like, forever. Now, that hasn't been happening lately because of, different changes in the market and stuff. But, yeah. So, yeah. So, on this Houston deal, though, it's going to happen.
For
I'm
sure.
excited.
Now, Amy,
Yeah.
when it comes to the BRRRR method in multifamily, I've heard this is a pro, but I want to know from somebody who's probably been there before. I've been told that you can refinance out multifamily up to 3 times. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Probably. But, what happens is at some point you run out of equity to refi. Like, at some point it doesn't make sense. So depending on how you bought it and how much it appreciates. So that's that whole game, right? So you do your initial value build. You could probably, like on my Houston one, I could probably refi it twice. I mean, there's going to be enough room in it, in the value, and I'm going to change the cap rate, and I'm going to do all sorts of the reposition. You might be able to do it. I mean, so it just depends on how good the buy is.
Yeah.
But at some point, but it doesn't make sense. At that point, you just, like, if I'm going to refi, yes, I can refi. I may get a lower rate. I might be able to return a little bit of money to my investors, but all the money you pay and all the points and all the crap you have to go through to refi, it sometimes doesn't, it's not economical or makes sense to do.
Right.
So yeah. But, refiing and giving all the investors money back, that's a big win. Refining again, you could bet, in 5 years instead of selling, you could do that too and give them more money, right? And pull more money out of the deal if you want, if it's cash flowing well. It just depends on how much value there is to gain. And that's how you decide that. So, yeah.
Amy, this is perfect. This is going to be so helpful for all of our listeners, and I really appreciate you getting on today, talking just really quickly about single family versus multifamily, the BRRRR method.
The BRRRR madness, yes.
If any of our listeners are interested in reaching out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Okay, so the easiest way to remember me is go to investingwithamy.com. And that'll take you to my website. That's not the website, but it'll take you to my website. That's the easiest way to remember me. So investingwithamy.com, and you'll get to my website, and you can learn more about me and all the deals I have and all that fun stuff. So, yep.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone is paying attention to the theme of wherever this post is going, whether it's the book or our app or whatever, we're definitely about empowering women. And so I'm really, really, really elated to have Amy on today. And thank you everybody for listening, reading, however you're consuming this content. And I'll see everybody pretty soon on the next interview. Thank you, Amy, so much.
Thanks. Yay! All right, girlfriend.